everyone, my name is Emma, and today I would like to talk about Furthermore by Tahereh Mafi. Now, Furthermore is a middle grade novel, if you don't know, and Tahereh Mafi is the author of the Shatter Me trilogy, which is a YA trilogy, and I am a huge fan of the Shatter Me trilogy. So, I had big expectations for this book, and I was super excited to get a middle grade novel from Tahereh Mafi because although I love the Shatter Me trilogy, and I love the love story in that trilogy, the romance is a big part of the plot. In a middle grade novel, obviously, the romance can't be a huge part of the plot. I was super excited to see her focus on other things. I love Tahereh Mafi. I love her writing style. It's so unique. It's so lyrical and emotional. She did not disappoint with this book. It's nothing like Shatter Me, but it has her trademark writing style to it, and I found it so much fun to read. I didn't want it to be over. I loved this book so much. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. The cover is so beautiful, and when you take it off, the underneath just is blue, but the side's all gold. Tahereh Mafi's writing is so unique. It's just very lyrical, poetic. It's difficult to explain, but she writes characters of all ages, and she writes them as very flawed, complicated people, and I really appreciate that. The whole time I was reading it, I was just smiling. It was so whimsical and fun, just like a good old adventure story. It's been a while since I read a middle grade novel, so that was also really fun to get back into the genre. I forgot how much I like reading middle grade novels, because sometimes I just get tired of the young adult romance drama, in books, the cliches. Sometimes it's just really fun to go back to middle grade where there's not as much drama. We can just have a good old fun adventure, and that's what I think this book was. It was just really refreshing, something that I really needed. It cheered me up. If you need to be cheered up, you should read this book. So I'm just gonna give a little plot summary. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have any spoilers in this video, but if I am going to spoil, I will warn you ahead of time. So if you haven't read the book, you can feel free to stay for a little while. So in Furthermore, our main character is Alice Alexis Queensmeadow. Alice is a colorless girl. She has no color, and in her world, in her town of Farronwood, color is equal to magic. So people assume that because Alice has no color, she has no magic. And magic is their currency, so it's a big deal to not have any color. She's always kind of felt out of place and unloved. So in Farronwood, when the kids turn 12, they have to go through this surrender, which is like a pageant, and they basically have to give up one magical gift. They have to perform it in front of the whole town. At the start of this novel, I believe 3 years ago, her father disappeared, and she has no idea where he went. She's convinced that he is alive, but in order to save him, she has to team up with this boy, Oliver, who she does not like at all. They have kind of a childhood rivalry, bad blood kind of thing, it's really funny to see their relationship develop. I thought it was super cute. Totally realistic, because I remember having that in elementary school. I think that's one thing that Tahereh Mafi did so well in this book, is that she really captures what it's like to be a 12-year-old girl. I believed everything that Alice thought. I believed all of her actions. I just thought she was such a real character. Okay, I just want to talk about the characters a little bit. Our main character, Alice, she's a force of nature. I loved her. She's so spunky. She's very impulsive and stubborn. She cannot stand to be ignorant, and she's always asking questions about everything. If somebody doesn't answer her, it bugs her. It drives her crazy to not know what's going on. She's also a huge drama queen. I just loved Alice. She's very brave. She's gotten through the loss of her father these past 3 years, and being sort of an outcast has made her very self-sufficient. She says that she's the most interesting person that she knows, so she doesn't understand why she doesn't fit in more. Even though she's very self-sufficient, she is still very lonely. She was a complex, lovely nightmare of a girl. Not that she's terrible, she just was a force of nature. She just runs into everything at full speed, and I thought she was great. Our other main character is Oliver, what's his last name? Newbanks. That's what it is. Our other main character is Oliver Newbanks, and I had heard before I read this book that some people found him really annoying. I was kind of expecting to find him annoying, but I didn't really. I liked Oliver. I mean, again, he's like a 13-year-old boy, so he's not going to be uber mature. I really loved Oliver. I thought he was a sweetheart. Oliver was frustrating at times, but so was Alice, and they're young and they're spunky people. They have strong personalities, so they're going to clash. I thought that was fun. I didn't find him annoying because Oliver is the older one. He's like older by a year. So he wants to be in charge and he wants to know everything. Sometimes he withholds information from Alice just to kind of seem impressive. In that way, he was kind of annoying. One of the things about this book is, and really any books, this is the case, as you go, you start to understand Alice and Oliver and why they do the things they do and kind of like the deeper hurts that they're holding that influence how they interact with each other. I found it very insightful. Tahereh Mafi really understands human struggles and emotions. I find her books to be very subtly insightful. Like, she doesn't shove it down your throat. It's very subtle and I don't know, they're just lovely. Another character who I really appreciated was Alice's mother. She was just such a realistic person. Like, she's a mom, yes, but she's very flawed. Moms aren't perfect. And her and Alice's relationship I thought was a really good addition to the story because of the way that the mother acts in her struggles and the way that Alice interprets it. I just thought it was very realistic and it was really nice to see that in a book because we don't often see those flawed mom characters. The parents aren't often a big part of the story, and the mom wasn't a huge part of the story, but what we saw of her was really, really well written. I loved Alice's father also. I mean, he's not present for most of the book, but we see glimpses of what he's like through Alice. She tells Oliver that father would always tell her she was beautiful, and Alice never believed she was beautiful because she has no color, because her town color is what makes you beautiful and she has no color, so she never believed that she was beautiful, and her dad was always telling her that. There was this one quote where I think it was like a flashback Alice was having of a conversation her and her dad had, and the dad says, "Unfold your heart, sharpen your eyes, and never say no to the world when it asks you to dance." I just thought, that's a good father right there. That's a good dad. You can tell that Alice and her dad have a really strong connection. When he was around, they really understood each other, and he was a big help to her, so I liked his character a lot too. So I want to talk about the world of Furthermore a little bit. The world building, because Alice has to travel into Furthermore to find her father, and Furthermore is this baffling, dangerous, fantastical world where nothing really makes sense, but there are so many rules that you have to keep. I think it's good to go into this book expecting that you will not understand everything. You can't approach the world of Furthermore trying to think logically because it's not logical. It's whimsical and fantastical. It's kind of like reading Alice Through the Looking Glass. If you expect that going in, I think you'll enjoy the world of Furthermore a lot because although it doesn't make sense, I wasn't actually confused. That said, I loved the world of Furthermore. It was so quirky, but it was beautiful and full of interesting places. There's lots of different towns in Furthermore. It was beautiful and intriguing and very dangerous, and the combination of those things made for a really interesting setting because Alice, our main character, knows nothing about Furthermore, and the further she goes, the more that she's in Furthermore, the more she starts to understand, and the more we start to understand. Because the world is so enchanting, but it's dangerous, you experience what Alice does in that you want to see more of the world, but at the same time, you just want Alice and Oliver to get a move on and get out of there before something happens to them. But at the same time, you're super intrigued by this world and its people. As the reader, you come to understand how dangerous Furthermore is with Alice. In the beginning, Oliver's kind of like, we need to move, we need to move, we need to get out of this town. In the first town, I was like, why, Oliver? I want to see more. This seems like an interesting place. Alice is thinking the same thing. And then as we see more and more of Furthermore, we come to realize how dangerous it is for them with Alice. And I always love that when you experience something in the same way that the character does. Something else that was really fun and unique about this book is the narrator. The narrator knows how the story ends the whole time, and sometimes he'll step back and make an observation or give you special insight into one of the characters. Also, the chapter names were really funny. Like, they weren't names about anything that happens. It was just like, this way to more chapters. I thought they were really cute. My favorite one was the one that said, Oliver says I'm really bad at naming these chapters or something like that. That one was my favorite. And then the one that was just a whole bunch of exclamation points because something important was happening in the book. The chapter ended and then the title was just a whole ton of exclamation points. I am going to talk about just a few of my favorite scenes. So if you haven't read the book, you might not want to stay for this part, although I'm not going to give away any huge plot points or anything. I just want to talk about a few of my favorite parts. So if you don't want to hear what my favorite scenes were, if you want to go into the book knowing less, you can leave now and read the book and then watch this last little part if you want to. I'll give you like a couple seconds to leave. One of my favorite scenes was just this tiny little thing. When they were in Left, I think the town is called Left, Alice gets to take a bath, and it's like this milk bath with all these colorful flowers in it. Oh my gosh, that sounded amazing. I want to take a bath like that. It sounded so lovely. My real favorite scene was after that, when they're all clean and Alice and Oliver, they start talking, and we really start to understand Oliver and the extent of Alice's dislike of her power and why she really hates it so much. I loved Oliver and Alice's development, their friendship development. Like, sometimes it's just nice to have a break from romantic relationships and just see a really sweet friendship develop, and we definitely got to see that in this book, and that scene was really a big moment for them. In my notes I said that they talked about their deep depths. I think Alice asked Oliver what he missed from home, and that's what started it all. And Oliver started to open up about his parents and how his power of persuasion has really inhibited all of his relationships in real life, and he hasn't gotten to experience a real relationship with someone and know what they really think about him. Because of that, he has this belief that if he can't control people, no one will love him. And that's why he was so mean to Alice in Middle Care, because she was immune to his persuasion. Alice didn't like him. We got to really understand Oliver in that scene, and Alice got to really understand Oliver. And then when Alice tells him about why she hates her power so much, because she's always wanted to be like everyone else, and she can change the color of anything except for herself. And then Oliver really gets to understand Alice, and I thought it was a great scene. It made me like tear up, and I was smiling really big. One of the things that Tahereh Mafi does really well is characters' emotions. She writes emotional characters, and she doesn't portray it as a weakness. There are quite a couple moments in this book where Alice kind of lets out her emotions, has like a little breakdown, you know. Tahereh Mafi does not portray that as a weakness. She doesn't say that that makes Alice any less of a hero adventurer. I really like that about her books. I think it's a huge strength of hers, her emotional characters. There was this quote that I thought was really good. It says, "She was stronger than Mother, and if she wasn't, she would be. She would be strong enough to fight for Father and not fall apart without him. He needed her to be smart, to stay alive, to keep fighting. Her love for Father made her brave. It made her better. It made her ready." I love that. That's so good. She writes about how, you know, love can make you weak, but it can also make you strong, and she shows the difference between that. She shows how those emotions can make you stumble, but also how they can make you really strong. That's great. Another of my favorite things about this book was just Alice's character development. Because she's a young girl, she has lots of insecurities, and I felt like it was very relatable. Just seeing her subtly grow to have confidence and be more loving towards herself, be more gentle with herself. She just became very self-assured. Like, Alice was always a very strong personality, but she comes to really accept herself. There was a paragraph at the end that I thought was really great, and I think I'm just gonna read it. "And Alice was learning to be happy. Alice knew that being different would always be difficult. She knew that there was no magic that could erase narrow-mindedness or iron out the inequities in life. But Alice was also beginning to learn that life was never lived in absolutes. People would both love her and rebuff her. They would show both kindness and prejudice. The simple truth was that Alice would always be different, but to be different was to be extraordinary, and to be extraordinary was an adventure. It no longer mattered how the world saw her. What mattered was how Alice saw herself. Alice would choose to love herself different and extraordinary every day of the week." The ending was so happy. I get back home, and her and Oliver are like best friends now. I love when they get home and Alice says goodbye to Oliver, and then like 5 minutes later he pops back up and he's like, "See, I told you your mom loved you." And she's like, "Oliver Newbanks, what are you doing here?" That was cute because it gave us a little glimpse into what they're gonna be like now that they're home. Like, they're still gonna be good friends even though they're not on some adventure. If Tahereh Mafi wanted to, she could write another book and write about Alice's task and Oliver going with them, and that would be a fun adventure to see. If she does that, I would definitely read it, but I would also be okay with just leaving it here because I was happy with the ending. I like those endings where it leaves you with the possibility of more, but it's also just giving your imagination something to feed off of. So I would be perfectly content if she doesn't decide to turn this into a series, but if she does, I will definitely read it, especially if it's just like a duology. Very random thought. I was so disappointed in the fox the fox was on the cover, so I was waiting for him to come in because I always look at the cover and try and like analyze what it has to say about the story. So when he popped up the first time, I was like, oh, there's the paper fox. And then, I don't know, I was just so disappointed. I thought this book was just such a fun, not throwback, nod to like those classic adventure stories like Narnia and Alice in Wonderland and, I don't know, Harry Potter, that kind of stuff. It just felt like it fit in with those. I'm not saying it'll go down in history level, but I mean, it fit in with that type of adventure story. It was just really fun, but it was really insightful. It definitely wasn't fluff. Tahereh Mafi's books are never fluff. I think this book will be one of my favorite reads of this year. I really loved it. It was really different from anything I've read this year, and I just had a lot of fun reading it. It made me smile a lot, and I've been reading kind of some heavy books or some books that have dark themes or whatever, and this one was just fun and cute and sweet and lovely. Overall, my thoughts, I loved it. It was beautiful. It made me feel so happy, but it was never just fluff. It was insightful and quotable, and I want another Tahereh Mafi book. I really do. It had been so long in between Shatter Me before we got this one, and I hope we get another book soon. She's one of those authors that I will read anything that she puts out. I just love her writing so much. Those are all my thoughts on Furthermore by Tahereh Mafi. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Comment down below if you have read Furthermore and if you enjoyed it, what you thought. If you haven't read it, if you plan to, I would very, very highly suggest it. I Miss Emma Reads a lot on Instagram and Tumblr. If you want to check out my social media, I'll put all the links down in the description. That's it for today, but I will see you soon with a new video.